Hi guys, welcome back to Schauer Thoughts. My name is Sarah Schauer. This is a podcast for left and right brainers, middle brainers, anyone with a brainstem, nervous system, or you have a lot of nerve. We have our first guest on the podcast today. Her name is Allison Raskin. She is a New York Times Best Selling Author, a relationship coach, and co-host of the new podcast Starter Marriage. Thank you, Allison, for joining me.
I'm so honored to be your first guest.
I am so excited because you're a relationship coach and you have written several books on marriage and relationships. And I was telling you this earlier, I'm a huge fan of divorce.
As am I, actually.
Yeah, you are?
Oh, definitely.
Okay, perfect. But the thing is for the audience at home, I don't encourage everyone to get divorced. I just, I love that divorce is now on the table and it's like more socially acceptable to talk about. Yeah.
I think divorce is what allows for healthier marriages.
Yeah, just the knowing that that option is there kind of like lets you move and express and, develop more freely, I feel like.
Yeah, for a really long time, you had to get married in our society where, like, you were sort of a social pariah if you weren't married, or if you were a woman, like, how are you going to get a credit card or a mortgage on a house? Like, there were, like, just these sexist, like, dividers between being able to be, like, an actual full-blown adult if you weren't a married woman. Mm-hmm. And so now, like, what's been really lovely is that marriage has become more of a choice than a necessity. Mm-hmm. And my goal for that is that, like, overall, probably less people will get married or people will get married later in life, but then the quality of those marriages will go up significantly because it's something that you want. And then if it doesn't work out, then you know that, like, you can get divorced without it ruining your entire reputation or life.
Mm-hmm, exactly. And I think it, like, runs in tandem, I think, with, having children and that sort of thing, because you did want to get married earlier if it was, like, a need because of, I guess, fertility is something to consider. I know that it's not just, like, you're totally fertile in your 20s and, but it's just, I guess that was society's pressure of why they emphasized it so early on, like getting married, like, earlier in your life.
I think also there's, there's just sort of, like, the patriarchy at play of, like, being, like this, even the imagery of, like, your father handing you over to your husband. Yeah. The idea of, like, a woman just, like, being on her own for a while. Mm-hmm. But, I think that also a big shift that has happened is that marriage used to be like the beginning of adulthood. Like, it was sort of like you would get married young and then you would build your adult life together. Mm-hmm. And now it's actually, I think, kind of overcorrected where people feel like they have to have everything in their life together before they can get married. Mm-hmm. So it's almost become this, like, classist symbol. Yes. Where you're only marriageable if you can afford a house, if you can afford to have children, if your career is totally figured out, like if you're a completely self-actualized person who, isn't struggling in any way. Yeah. And like, it's almost like we've put up too many barriers for people to feel like they're able or ready to get married, when I actually think that there can be a lot of benefit from, getting married maybe before you figured everything out, because then you have this buddy to help you do it together, right? Like, imagine being able to, like, go to grad school because your spouse is able to, be in the workforce while you're getting that higher degree. Yes. Rather than having to do everything on your own and then finally emerging and being like, okay, I either did or didn't, so now I can either get married or not.
Yeah, exactly. This is not a one-to-one, but it kind of, so I'm an alcoholic, and, like, usually when you get sober, the general advice is, like, don't start a relationship for the first year, because, like, you're going to be going through, like, a time where you develop and, like, change a lot of things. Mm-hmm. But the thing is that's just sort of like to get your feet, grounded. You don't have to be perfect by the end of the year, but it's just so, and then, I mean, you could date really at any point, but it's so that you feel some element of grounded and secure in the status of where you're at. But then also, like, when you start to date doesn't mean that, like, now you don't also deal with the issues. You're not, like, perfect. And so, I think it would be, you don't have to be totally and completely perfect to be married. You don't have to be totally, I mean, you should be in recovery if you're going to be, but you know what? That's a different thing. Yes. Okay. So with Schauer Thoughts, though, we usually do a warm up because this is the shower. So how was your week?
Oh wow, I'm so sorry I dived into all of that.
Oh, no, that's perfect.
I guess that was us while the water was heating up.
Yeah,
having a chit chat. My week was pretty good. How was my week?
You're like, wait, no.
It's been a somewhat chaotic time. You mentioned I'm an author, and I just turned in my first full draft of my newest rom-com novel Sunday night, and so this weekend was a race against the clock against my deadline. So I was just writing all weekend, and then I finally turned it in Sunday evening. And so I was saying to you earlier, I'm to just be a guest on a podcast rather than having this writing deadline breathing down my neck. I'm what a lovely morning.
Oh my gosh, that is incredible. Wait, so it's is it fiction or it's nonfiction?
It's fiction.
Okay.
Yeah, I've written both fiction and nonfiction.
That is incredible. How is being a New York Times bestselling author? How does that feel?
It's great. Look, I'll be totally honest with you. It happened in 2017, and it was for 1 week, but I get to say it for the rest of my life. And I will say it for the rest of my life.
Yeah, that's just because it happened. That doesn't mean that it. Yeah, I would tell everyone that.
Yeah, I tend to. Yeah. No, it was for my first novel that I co-wrote with my comedy partner Gabe Dunn. It was called I Hate Everyone But You, and it was a YA novel, but they're in college, so
okay,
it was a little wishy-washy with the YA because normally sometimes that cuts off around 18, but they were technically in college, and it was amazing. I mean, that book was such a dream come true, and then it had a sequel. Then I went into nonfiction, and now this is now my second rom-com. So I'm now doing, fiction by myself in the romance space, which is obviously very different than the YA space.
Oh yeah, that is incredible. So I'm gonna link all of your books below, guys. You should check them out. I largely read nonfiction.
Yeah,
but I mean, you have nonfiction books, and I mean, I didn't get all the way through your book. I think, but I'm halfway through. So I feel sorry, I just wanted to check where I'm at with that. I didn't want to lie and be I finished it. You know what I mean?
I was going to quiz you on it too, so it's good you didn't.
Okay, but no. In any other context, I would have loved a quiz because I was telling Allison I'm not officially in school. My audience knows this, that I love learning. So any opportunity for feedback from the expert or the author, I would be give me a quiz. You know what I mean? Oh, so this is exciting, but that is incredible. How long does it usually take to write a book?
It ranges a lot for people because of just various things in the way my work's worked out. I end up having pretty tight deadlines. I ended up getting a big expansion on this last rom-com because unfortunately my mother died last year, and so I was just starting to work on it just as she got sick and died, and so I was I'm gonna need to push this. But I'd say that I started I'd say mine tend to be 6 to 8 months, which is very much on the shorter end of what people normally take to write a book.
Okay. I have never tried to write a book, but I've wanted to write several books.
Well, you still can.
I know that I can. I just think it would be I have such a diverse range of interests that I feel my audience wouldn't know how to react. Because the nonfiction one, I would want to write an ethnomathematics book on the LGBTQ, and ethnomathematics is how different cultures interact with math, particularly through strategy games. But since the LGBTQ is a spectrum, and there's bisexual, pansexual, non-binary, it's just rife with so many explanations through math, and the trans community, and that there's so many things that you could write. But then my fiction would be a lot of lesbian smut. And so I could imagine if I had a book signing, that just the clear divide of people there for the math and then the smut, and I'd be I'm sorry, there's a limited budget, I had to combine you guys. But yeah.
Hey, I've done a range of stuff, right? I mean, that people get cued into your voice and your outlook, not necessarily the content about which you're talking about.
Oh yeah.
So you could very much write your lesbian smut with her being someone writing that book.
You're totally correct. Is there a category of book where the main character is made up, but exactly what they're maybe it pivots to a chapter that's completely nonfiction, and this is what she's written?
There are books within books, right?
Really?
Oh, yeah. I just read a really great one, and now, of course, I'm blanking on the name, but it was a book about an author, and she was writing this like sci-fi book, and then chapters of the book were the sci-fi book. So people definitely do that.
That's incredible. I definitely need to look into that.
Yeah, and I need to remember the name because I recommend this book to people, and now I'm blanking on it.
You've done it multiple times?
Yeah.
Guys, it's like it exists, but it's not like but that is so cool. Okay, yeah. So your week, you finished up, you submitted your final draft?
My first the manuscript, so like the first draft, and then I have a couple weeks off until my editor is like comes back with all her notes, and I have to dive back in.
Yeah. And do you foresee like a lot of edits, or I don't know, or how was her feel on the original, I guess, pitch?
She's read the first 20K words, and I already rewrote those based on her notes. You have no idea, right? But what's really lovely for me is that I love her and I trust her. Sometimes you work with different people where like they give you notes and you're like, oh, all right. But like every time she gives a note, it like really makes sense and it like enhances it. And then the few times when I've disagreed with her on something, I'm able to like voice why I disagree, and then she understands. Yeah. And what's because I've also worked in TV, like I've sold a few TV shows, and the big difference between like writing a book and working in Hollywood is when they give you a note in Hollywood, you have to take it. Oh. And then it was like so shocking when like my editor will be like, if you want. Yeah. I'm like, what do you mean if I want? Like, that's wild.
No, I totally get that. Oh gosh, we talk about on this podcast like effective collaboration. You need desires, intentions, and beliefs, or intentions or attitudes kind of generally align with someone. Yeah. So it is so nice to find like a true collaborator.
Definitely.
Where you feel like you trust, like if they give you a note, it's like they genuinely want you to do better. Because it seems like a lot of times, it's like when you get notes, it could be just a way to like make you feel kind of bad about yourself. I mean, I guess that would make a horrible editor. Like, oh, you're stupid and dumb. It's like, well, but why did I sign to you, Okay, yeah. But how was my week?
Oh, I'm so sorry. How was your week?
Oh, no. You're totally good. I think, well, it was good. I guess I'm speaking to someone, but so I'm a lesbian. Yeah. I don't know if I don't know if this is like a weird question to ask. Can you tell that I'm a lesbian?
Oh,
I don't know if this is set up too. This is not a setup.
I didn't think it was a setup. Okay, yeah. If someone was like, make a guess, I probably would have guessed queer. Yeah. Because I'm not going to make a strong choice either way. Yeah. But that's what read for me.
Thank you. I'm really trying to lean into it more. I mean, I have the nose rings, which I feel like is like kind of a signal. But then I was like, you know what? I'll wear a button-up shirt. And all my audience listening is like, Sarah, you've said a million times that you cannot look gay. It's all about creative expression. And I'll be like, guys, I'm breaking my own rules right now.
I was probably basing that honestly more off of like what you wanted to write your nonfiction book about. Because I sort of assumed that like it'd be weird if it would be kind of like bizarre if that's like the first book you wrote if you were straight.
Yeah. It'd be like, who are you? Yeah. That is so true. I did give it away a large hint. You know what? You're so right about that.
Look, people do it. People exploit it.
Yeah. Let me write about a culture I'm not a part of in a very granular way. But okay, yeah. We can now pivot. Oh, actually, I didn't even say my week was good. Talking to someone. Wait, guys, what else is going on? The main thing I do is I read all week. So I have like 5 new books. The first one is The Little Book of Language. I'm looking into like language development with like semantics, and then I'm also I'm annotating Symbolic Logic, which is like a textbook, and it's about symbolic logic. So it's like more syntax and stuff. So I'm hitting it from all angles. I truly am just interested in everything. I was telling Allison, you guys already know, 10 years of extreme alcohol abuse. You're kind of like numb, and then you're like, I want to feel, I want to learn. And so I'm just like learning everything.
I love that. I always wish I was someone that was more interested in things. Mm-hmm. Like I wish I had more hobbies and interests.
What hobbies or interests would you like to?
Honestly, anything would be great.
Okay, yeah. I just wrote this Substack on how to get into research as a hobby. And what the thing is people always look at hobbies through the lens of need, so you're like, oh, it's another thing to work on. But I was like, reframe it through the lens of desire. So when I research, I like to set up like all my books, like on my kitchen table, light some candles, play Etta James on my, like my radio, and then I open the window and I don't sit down right away. I just like look at her and I'm like making eyes. I'm like, that is such a nice scene.
Yeah,
You
very
know?
inviting.
Yeah. And so like it's like just setting it up for the opportunity for it to happen. So it's like all the actual, like, I mean, the actual reading and like annotating is the work aspect, but just making it kind of the desire, like presenting first as opposed to like, I gotta read. And also the thing is this is not really for school. So I don't really like answer. I mean, I do answer to everyone who's like fact checking me, but I'm not tested on this. So like kind of that's out the window.
I know. I don't like school, but I love to learn. Because I went back and I got a master's in psychology a couple years ago so that I would like know more what I was talking about when I'm writing and about relationships and coaching people and all those things. And I hated being in school because of like having to do the tests, having to do the papers, having it feel like, you know, just even like the power dynamic of like having, because I went back like in my 30s, right? And so just like it's like weird to be in that power dynamic with a professor and but like I'm obsessed with like learning new things, and I am often just like asking my husband to explain like esoteric things to me that he happens to know.
Oh, that's incredible. I'm 30 and I mean, I don't know. I've told you like before, I have like 4 classes that I would need to take, but I would love to go back to school. I don't know what I would study. Like, I mean, I'd finish my business analytics classes, but I mean, going back to school in your 30s is so cool. It's like something I would love to do.
But you still can.
I know. That is so, you're so cool. This is exactly what we talk about here, like later in life learning and like just the love of the game. But so Allison, you have written, I think, conversations about modern marriage. And so you are also a relationship coach. I have so many notes. I have like, if I was reading your first Substack, Why Are Relationships So Hard? And I went through that. Let me scroll down to your actual book. Okay. So in the intro of your book, you say, so many aspects of married life have changed since the rather vague definition of marriage was written. And you follow up with how united are we supposed to be? What is appropriate to expect from our contractual spouses? And why do so many of these initially consensual contracts end up being unilaterally dissolved? And if you if you would like to give an abridged answer to those. So like, how united are we really supposed to be with like this, you know, where marriage is currently at? Because I know it was supposed to be in the day, it's like, you know, you give yourself to your husband, you know, he's the sole breadwinner, you provide kids and emotional support or whatever. So like, are we allowed, like, how united is the marriage supposed to be at this point?
Yeah, so my like general thesis is like after all the research I've done in the book and like my own reflections about my relationship towards marriage is basically that marriage isn't a monolith, right? That like I think before it felt like we were signing up for this thing and it was going to be the same between all couples. And what's really cool about modern marriage is that you get to write your own rules.
Yes.
So you get to decide like what type of marriage am I signing up for? Am I signing up for the type of marriage where, you know, this is like we're going to do pretty much everything we possibly can to prioritize each other, be there for each other, you know, make it until one of us dies. Like, you know, is this the most important thing in our life? Are you the most important thing in my life? And then there are other people where like it's serving a purpose, right? It's serving maybe a financial purpose where, you know, I'm someone that wants to have kids. I want to be a stay-at-home mom. This is a partner who makes a great living. And maybe, you know, we are not the best of friends, but like we are good life partners and there's love and, you know, but like I get a lot of my emotional needs met from my girlfriends or from other people in my life. And like that kind of more like traditional gendered role relationship still works for some people. It's like, it's really just about, and this is like what I encourage people to do throughout the book is figuring out what type of marriage are you looking for? Are you looking for a best friend marriage? Are you looking for like a strategic marriage? Are you know like is it primarily to have the structure to raise children? Is it primarily because just being in a relationship with another person is incredibly fulfilling and you guys don't even want to have kids? So there's just so many options and I feel like people don't realize that and then they like just kind of get married and end up sort of emulating what they think marriage should be rather than figuring out what actually works for them.
Yeah, it's like how you were saying, a lot of people feel like they individually need to be perfect before they enter a marriage. It's almost like they kind of forget about like discussing what type of marriage they would like to. So it's like they almost have like perfected themselves, but now they're entering the marriage, and then throughout the marriage they're like, oh wait, we haven't even laid the foundation for like what this union could be, like the purpose. So that conversation should happen before you get married, not like at the altar, like, so this is all for legal.
Yeah.
I want to be able to visit.
I mean, look, a lot of people get married for health insurance. Because the reality is like the marriage piece doesn't emotionally matter to them. Like they're able to feel just as committed and partnered with someone without involving the government, but logistically they need health insurance.
Yes.
And so that's okay too, right? I mean, the current setup of society really benefits and rewards married couples.
Yes.
And so the bigger question is like, should we be fighting against that?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. If you get more legal protections being married, that means single people do exist at a bit of a disadvantage right now.
Definitely.
Yes.
And like, why can't you add your roommate to your health insurance or your best friend or your grandma or, you know, like why are we valuing a romantic partnership like this dyad above like all other relationships?
No, exactly. That is so true. Gosh, I was trying to think of like, you know what? I blanked on the question, but we will keep moving. You also said, like, what is appropriate to expect from our contractual spouses? But I imagine that is like you answered with the first question, like you decide which structure you guys are abiding by and then kind of build out from there. Because if you're getting married to, financial stability or legal protections, right? I'd imagine that you'd go through all of the areas in which you would need the legal protections and like expectations of. I'm trying to think. I don't know any. Well, if I do know people who are just married for the legal protections, I doubt that they're probably telling me that. But yeah.
I mean, I think that like the one through line that you want is to have a certain level of respect for each other, right? So as soon as you're in a relationship where the other person isn't being respectful, if it's a relationship filled with contempt, if it's a relationship filled with contempt, or any abuse of any kind,
yes, then
like I want you to get out. Beyond that, though, it's really sort of like up to you. What is your standard? And those standards can change, right? I mean, it can be this sort of thing where, for the first decade of my marriage, I don't really mind that my partner's like not that emotionally available to me, but then suddenly I realize I want something more, and they're like, hey, that's not me, that's not what I signed up for, and then you're allowed to say, well, this isn't working for me anymore. And I think that not feeling like too locked into anything, like that you're always allowed to change and decide that this isn't worth it, is helpful, because then you don't feel trapped because you are allowed to leave.
Yeah, and that's where the resentment would come in, is that if you feel like you can't leave and now you're just begrudgingly building up all these things, and then eventually you're going to have like this moment of where it just like all comes out, and then that might end up a horrible situation. But yeah, so guys, respect is like reverence. I did just talk about trust, so it's like respect is kind of connected to trust. The thing is like you can respect people you don't love. Interestingly, it's like seeing a soccer player who's like really, really great, but you absolutely hate them. But you know that every time they come out on the field, you know that they're going to perform exactly their role. And so you can respect them. So I guess you truly don't need to love someone to respect them, as long as they're consistently holding themselves to a high standard, which is interesting. But it really depends. So yes, you don't need an emotional connection with your spouse. Also, I'm a huge fan of lavender marriages.
Yeah, right. Like marriages serve many roles and for many different people. I mean, ideally, we want to get to a place where like people don't need to have, don't feel compelled to present themselves as anything other than that they are. But like, if you like prefer a lavender marriage because like this is your best friend and you really enjoy going through life together, and the sexual component isn't that big of a deal to you, or like you get those needs met somewhere else, then that can be like a lovely lifelong partnership.
It could be. Also, I think of like how you're describing marriages as like different sports, where like traditionally people think like marriage has to be one way. It's like a roles, right? Where it's like it could be like, oh, the only option is football, but like now there's like different sports, like different things you're trying to get out of it, skills you're trying to develop. So it's like our marriage is more soccer, our marriage is more swimming, you know, so it's like you can use different muscles or like different strengths. You know, you could be a team, you could, I mean, kind of challenge each other to grow. So it would be like swimming, unless you guys do relays against couples who live next door. Then, I mean, that's keeping up with the Joneses. But yeah, so, okay. I'm so excited that you're here. This is so cool. Okay, so there's also, and why do you, okay. Yeah, so why do these initially consensual contracts end up being unilaterally dissolved? So one person taking it into their hands, is that like you were saying where it's, you know, someone realizes they just want something else, or they can't speak their mind, or they feel like they have no other options? Like, why do most of them get unilaterally dissolved? I guess as opposed to amicably.
Well, that's the risk,
Yeah.
right? I mean, it takes two people to enter into a partnership, and it only takes one person to end it.
Yes.
And so you are giving this other person a lot of control over your life because they can say, I'm done at any moment. I mean, ideally, if you've made it to the commitment of marriage, you're not going to just like surprise your partner and walk out one day. Like there's at least hopefully some understanding that like if there are issues, you will give some time and some space to work on those things. But it's a huge risk to get married. It's a huge risk to engage in any kind of you know, relationship. And it just has to, I think the most important thing is feeling secure enough that if your marriage or partnership were to end, that you would be okay. That you have built up enough of a life outside of that partnership that like you wouldn't lose everything. Not to minimize like the pain and anguish that is divorce and breakups. Like they're truly horrible. They often come with a huge financial cost, emotional cost, lifestyle change. But this idea that like everything is your whole world is built around your marriage, that makes it almost too risky.
Yes.
Whereas if you have a support system, you have perhaps either your own income stream or have been protected in the marriage, that if you don't, that you would still, you know, you would still have a similar quality of life, then, you know, it's awful, but it's not as disruptive as it can be if you don't take those precautions.
Yes. I did a podcast episode on like the fear of aging, and what I realized with research, like turning 30, the thing that's most scary to people is identifying as 30, because 30 comes with like an identity, you know, and like that's culture, like that's customs, beliefs, attitudes, like language, and it's not like you have to adopt all of those, but like you're exiting your 20s, which has like a fully developed, you know, culture of being in your 20s and entering your 30s, so it's a massive shift. And so I wonder, I mean, do you like, marriage is an identity, you know, like I am a wife or a husband, or you know, I'm a spouse. Yes. And so then when you're, not only are you now going through this, you know, breakup, whether like, I mean, it could be amicable, it could be harmful. You also, there's your entire, I guess, culture, individual culture in this sense is, you're like, do you have a smooth transition? Like, will you be able to maintain any of it? Or like, is it going to be a complete break? And that could be incredibly daunting.
And I think that that's something that people really have to think about, is like, how much of an identity is that going to be for you? And I'm not saying that like, oh, you shouldn't let it be a part of your identity, but to make sure there's other stuff there too.
Yes. Yeah. And I hate to, marriage and alcoholism are not the same, but like a lot of people, why they have a hard time getting sober is that mainly the people they drink with are their close friends.
Right.
And so like, I'm not saying getting divorced is like getting sober, but like you may, a lot of people may feel like they can't relate to you anymore about certain things. And I mean, that is kind of superficial, where it's like, oh, you don't have the label now that we're not the same thing, but I guess you're not moving and engaging with the world in the same way.
I think sometimes also people fear divorce, right? So if like you are in a group of couples and you're the first one to get divorced, there can be this sense of like, I don't want that to happen to me.
Yeah.
And so I think sometimes, I mean, I think probably happens less now that it's become less stigmatized, but like historically it's sort of been like, there's a stink to it.
Yes.
Like there's like a bad influence around it. And so that's something I think we have to really push against, like this idea of divorce as failure, rather than just like something that sometimes happens.
Yes. No, it's just a lifestyle pivot. There's there's so much respectability politics when it comes to all of this. Like getting divorced is like, I mean, it's I really hate that I keep bringing up alcoholism, but like, yeah, it's not it's not respectable to say that out loud, but it's also like it's a choice that I had to make because something was no longer like sustainable for me. And so while there is the outside looking in shame, I do feel like I feel much better.
Yeah.
And I imagine divorce is the thing is you can be addicted to people. And so I don't think you're probably addicted to your spouse. It's just, okay, I'm going to move on because I feel like I am. But yes. Okay, so you also said, according to the Thriving Center of Psychology, 2 out of every 5 millennials and Gen Z think that marriage is outdated. But it doesn't mean that they're taking marriage off the table. Is that they are just waiting longer to get married? Yes.
Yeah, people are getting married older. And I think that's good. You know, I think that it makes sense to kind of know yourself better. Again, I think that that's like that tricky thing, right? Of like waiting longer but not waiting forever.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So yeah, and also like you have a better sense of who you are, right? So like and you've been through more things. I think there's often benefits in having had multiple relationships. You know, obviously some people make it work with their high school sweetheart, but I think there's a lot of issues that kind of arise from never having gone through a breakup, never seeing what the possibility of other relationships can be like, just sort of like thinking like, well, this is it, when like there's many more versions and options out there. But yeah, so people are getting married less often. They're getting married older. Again, I think that those are good things.
Yes. Okay, good. I mean, I think those are great things too. I think it's incredible if someone can make it work with their high school sweetheart. I mean, if it's if you're just too afraid to leave each other, then that's something you guys will deal with. But like to know from the jump that this is your person for life. I mean, I would say that the marriage is probably the best option for you because you have you're very certain,
I wouldn't say though that all of those couples were very certain.
Oh, they weren't?
No, I mean, I think
I'm sorry. Like, yes, sorry. I moved around a lot also too. So like you're like, that doesn't make any, you can understand logically. Keep going.
I'm just saying, like, who knows what they went through to get to that decision. There might have been periods of time where one person was more committed than not. There might have been questioning. There might have been doubts. Like, it's not like they met, the first day of sophomore year and they were like, we're done. Like, I'm sure that they had to work out their own kinks and things too. For that to work, it just means you have to have both changed in ways that are compatible.
Yes.
Rather than, moving away from each other as you grow up.
Oh, exactly. How long have you known your husband?
We're coming up on 4.5 years.
Nice.
Yeah.
And you guys have been married for how long?
It'll be 2 years in August.
Congrats.
Thank you.
What are you guys going to do for your 2 year?
We're doing like a little, I'm pregnant, so we're doing like a little baby moon at the end of August, like a week after our wedding anniversary. So I think we'll just sort of like lump those things together.
Okay. That is so cool. Gosh, I do have to say, I don't think I'll ever get married, but if I were to get married, I don't know if this is making a mockery of the system, but I would get married to get divorced.
Just why?
Because I think, in a weird way, having the title of divorce makes you so like badass. You know what I mean? I know that it could be like a real like sore spot for a lot of people, but like meeting a woman in her 30s who's divorced or 20s, just tell me your lore. You know what I mean? I'm sorry that it didn't work out, but that's like, I don't know. That's like seeing a woman on a motorcycle. You're like, hell yeah, you can do that. Get out of here.
I think it is a very painful experience for a lot of people.
I'm so sorry.
But I also think it can be empowering and it can, allow you to have a life that you didn't think was possible before.
Yes. I imagine it's quite painful and I do want to validate that pain. And I know it's, but I think as a lesbian, I think it's one of the gayest things you can do as a straight person is get divorced where you're like, I'm not happy with this role. I'd like to switch or I'd like to leave it. And I'm like, yes, I like that, But I don't want anyone to just get divorced for the sake of getting divorced. I think I would just do it just to just because there's so many, I'm sorry guys, funny things I could, I'd make anyway. But I'm going to keep asking you about questions. Also, my audience is largely autistic. And so, like, if you're like, these are, like, really specific, granular, like, you went throughout the book. It's because really, me and my audience like details.
Don't worry.
And okay. And so you did say that you'll be, in the book, you're examining the realities of marriage through many different lenses: legal, emotional, financial, and crucially, mental health. Which one would you say you should approach first?
Oh, in my work, I'm always very interested in the intersection of relationships and mental health, and how our mental health history and our current struggles interplay with how we're able to show up as partners, and how it's really important to have an understanding of your own brain in order to explain it to someone else.
Yes.
So, my first nonfiction book was called Overthinking About You, Navigating Romantic Relationships When You Have Anxiety, OCD, and or depression. And so for me, it's always through a mental health lens first, because I think that helps explain things of like, why does your partner have this have these beliefs about commitment? Why is this stuff difficult for them? What in their past has made them have this association with money? And I think it's sort of just in a way like kind of a trauma-informed approach that like can then help make sense of all the other stuff.
Yes, that makes perfect sense, because I with the autism and the alcoholism, I keep bringing this up, but with the autism, I get like incredibly overstimulated, and at a certain point, I don't want to be like talked to or touched, and that's just because like I basically all my senses, feelings, thoughts, and movements. Well, my movements are like locked, but it's too overwhelming, and someone usually when they go to comfort someone, they'll want to like pat them on the back or talk to them, and I want to be like, everything is shutting down. And communicating that is like, I've dated people in the past where they kind of assume like they get hurt by that, they're hurt that I won't let them comfort me, and it's like, well, the thing is we have different definitions of being comforted in this moment.
I have a ton of sensory issues as well, and I've had to like explain that to my husband, that a lot of times like I don't want to be touched, or that like that I am overstimulated, and he is so the opposite. Like physical touch is like absolutely his number one comfort. It's something he like wants and seeks all the time, and that's sort of like a dance we have of like me having to fulfill his needs there, but also like respecting when I like just can't. I have this memory, and I think it's true, where on the night my mom died, he asked if he could hug me. And that just really felt like such an understanding. Yeah. Like that he was like just so cued into like the way that I am, that he like, and in that moment I wanted it, but like just to find someone that doesn't take that stuff personally. Yes. But like understands like why you're wired that way, and that it's okay to make those accommodations for each other.
I've talked about this before, but like thoughtless, like careless means thoughtless. So like to care about something, you have to think about it first. And so a lot of people think that like love and hate are not really opposites; they're opposites to indifference, and between that is care and thought. And so like like thinking to just ask is like caring, and you're like, yeah, he cares about me, he's my husband, but like it's to be remembered, to be thought of, to be seriously considered consistently is like establishing care, and then attending to the needs, like healing, helping, being present and conscious and aware with someone is like the level of love, and then the level of hate is like hurt or harm consciously or unconsciously, I guess. But it's nice to be thought of. My love language is words of affirmation. I'm not in a relationship with any of these people listening, but I recently was talking about, someone was talking about how I repeat myself, and more than anything, what made me happy and like cared about was that they remembered that I had said something previously in the past. And I know you're like, that's pretty basic, but and they're
paying attention.
Yes, and so they knew that they took it in to realize, I told the same story twice. The thing is I was raised moving, like I moved every few years because my parents are in the military, and also my parents were like, children should be seen and not heard. So like I like hid, and then just like being autistic and then not really fitting in with people, and then just numbing after that. After I got to college, I like genuinely truly believed that no one remembered me, you know, because they didn't. And so even just the tiny comments of like, you've already said this, it's like, oh my God, a couple people are saying it. A couple people remembered, you know, they remembered me. And so they're like, yeah, but you keep telling this. And I'm like, but you guys don't understand. It's the principle that you remember. And I know that's not a, you know, one-to-one for being married, but it's nice that, you know, he thought to ask you in that moment.
I mean, yeah, to feel seen, to feel understood, and romantic partners aren't the only people that can provide that for us. But I feel it's such a crucial part of connection and being able to like feel safe in the world.
No, exactly. So you also, I subscribe to your Substack, and that will be linked below, guys. You should subscribe. You are number 58 in health and wellness on Substack.
Yeah.
That is incredible.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh. I was like, so you're like a New York Times best-selling author, number 58 on. This is just so cool. And you've written nonfiction and fiction. Sorry, this is like, you don't understand. I don't like actually.
You know that like Tig Notaro show she did where she had no idea who her guest was?
Yeah.
And she's just like learning things about the guest as I'm sitting
Oh,
here.
I yes, when you first reached out, I had no idea who you were, but then I researched you. And the thing is I love learning and research, and this is just it's like so cool. And I'm not in school, and I don't feel I'm not respectable. So to have someone respectable on my podcast.
Don't say that though. Okay. You're putting far too much emphasis on formal education.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a scam. Like you don't need a college degree to be brilliant. Okay. And you don't need a degree in journalism to be a journalist.
That's true. I know that people who have a journalism degree are gonna be like, you ran in circles an entire time. And so I like take people's criticism very seriously. So, but yeah. So I don't know. Maybe I'm listening to too many people's input.
And look, you know, these are skills that we get better at, right?
Yeah.
Like I've been interviewing people for years now. And so what I've learned is how to be better at interviewing, right? It's not like you start at a certain level and that's where you stay. You learn on the job.
Yes.
And like, honestly, with a lot of skills, it's like what you learn in school, there's only so much. It's really real world application.
You're right.
And so you're doing the real world stuff.
I am. This is also my first time doing the real world stuff by myself. Because if I have interviewed someone in the past, it's been with another person. Right. So for it to be like totally me is interesting. But yeah, this is my first real world interview experience. I'm trying to think if I've ever you're like, have you ever talked to someone else? Like ask them questions, and I'll be like, oh God, I have. This is like that. But
well, it's also like you can find interviewers that you like and what's their style and what you think works about how they get people to share. And then you can model after them. I
was thinking the main interview is probably Sean Evans from Hot Ones. But that's because I like how granular he gets.
Yeah.
But I don't have his shtick of eating hot wings with my guest. I was going to say some messed up thing. I was saying maybe between each question we could smoke a cigarette, and then just by the end of it, we're so wired. But we're like...
And I've killed my baby, but yeah.
Well, no, I would never... that's just the first pitch. You understand a rough draft? Okay. Sorry. I could also... So sorry.
No, I'm just joking.
I would never make a pregnant woman smoke. Okay. So I was reading your Substack. Why are relationships so hard? You said perhaps this is because knowing how you want to act in a partnership and being able to follow through with that intention in every moment, mood, and situation isn't the same thing. I talk about awareness quite a bit, which is where action resides in its movement, like desire, pursuit, like expansion. Why do you think people's like actions and I guess why their intentions, why they can't perform what they want to perform? Do you understand?
Yeah, definitely. Well, because we're emotional creatures, right? I mean, the way we react when we are feeling activated or triggered or attacked or defensive is going to be very different than when we're feeling like neutral or calm. So I can maybe have like this greater feeling of like, oh, I should be responding to my partner in this moment with like total empathy and understanding and accountability, but my defenses are up. and I'm not necessarily thinking clearly.
Yes.
And so I'm like stressed, I'm agitated, I'm hungry. And so I'm going to snap, or I'm going to go on the defense, and I'm going to kind of forget that this person is actually my teammate, my ally.
Yes.
And I think something that's really important is obviously the level of rupture matters. I mean, I think people that fight really dirty with their partners do a lot of damage. But like having conflict isn't the problem. The problem is, how do you repair that conflict?
Yes.
And are you willing and able to repair the conflict?
I am. Maybe I have a more unique relationship with emotions since I love studying them, I think, and also feeling numb for most of my life. I think when I feel a strong emotion, this is a weird reaction. I'm like, I'm angry. You know what I mean? Like, okay, no. I'm annoyed. Now I'm irate. Now I'm like furious. And so I guess it's a weird sort of like, I'm just excited that I can feel and identify it.
Yeah.
So while I'm having a complete like fallout with my partner over a misunderstanding, I'll be like, listen, we're clearly misunderstanding each other. I am mad right now, which will soon, kind of go to more, I guess, a sadness usually, or, a distance, but I'll be back. So maybe I'm maybe too autistic about this.
Or it's good to know that, right? And to be able to, sometimes the thing doesn't need to be resolved right then. It's able to say like, hey, like we're both, I think, too agitated to be able to resolve this in a reasonable way. Why don't we take a time out?
Yeah.
Or like, hey, why don't we like actually have a hug right now so that we can kind of regulate each other a little bit back and remind each other who we are to each other.
Yeah.
And, and then talk the thing through. Exactly.
Because feelings show up a lot quicker than logic. So just give yourself like time to wind down. Yes. You also said you prefer the term additive relationships and not healthy relationships. And why is that? And should we all start to kind of adopt that terminology?
I think that healthy is just like kind of charged and, sometimes a little bit ableist, or and it's like, what's your version of healthy versus my version of healthy, and additive is like, to me, that's like how you really decide like if this relationship is working, right? Is it additive to your life? Does it make your life better?
Yes.
It doesn't mean that there isn't like sacrifice or hard moments, but overall your life is better because you're in this additive relationship. And then I think healthy just is like it comes with some complications and kind of like baggage, and it can also feel very judgmental of like, I'm in a healthy relationship, you're in an unhealthy relationship, right?
Yeah. There's so many interpretations of healthy. I do like additive because the thing is what I've noticed with a lot of people is where they get someone who balances them out, which does end up with it's like a zero. It's a neutral thing. It's like we finish each other, but I want to transcend. Like I want this to like we both add something, so it's like emerging. I think if someone gives and takes, or it's like it's kind of just like, I feel like a very neutral, not like charged. It's just kind of floating around a sort of. Do you know what I mean?
Look, I think there are people that bring out the best in us, and there are people where it's just sort of like, this is fine.
Yeah.
But overall, it's like, is my satisfaction with my life higher because we're together? Am I able to go exist in the world apart from you, feeling a little more supported and connected? I really like the imagery of your partner being your anchor. And so it's not that you being in a partnership closes your world. It actually just like provides you with this anchor so that you can go out and explore the world and explore yourself while having the safety of being connected to that other person.
Yes.
And it actually, in a sense, often gives us like more freedom and confidence to do the things we want to do because we have that person sort of anchoring us.
Do you like polyvagal theory?
Remind me what that one is.
It's like it talks about the anchor a lot. Like there's like the book Anchored by Deb Dana.
I haven't read it.
You should if you like Anchored, because that's exactly what she's like describing, where you get freedom of movement, you're grounded, but also you have like the space to move. I do use a lot of like ship analogies here. So everyone's like,
I do too. It's really, I never sail. I don't even really like boats that much, but it's so easy to make a ship metaphor.
It really is. It's so easy, because the thing is like, Yeah, with like people say like, "Oh, cut me some slack," but the thing is what slack is it's tension, right? So if your grace is slack, and grace by definition is unearned because it's something that you're always just worthy of. It's kind of like it's like a slack line on a ship, where if you're about to go into port, right, and you throw out a rope and it's way too tight. Cutting yourself some slack is not something you earn. Cutting yourself some slack is something you have to do because if that rope snaps, it's going to damage the vessel or it's going to hurt people on, the dock or it's going to hurt the captain or whatever. So like cutting yourself some slack literally means to like ease movement. So you're allowed to like pivot into something and it's not something, giving yourself some grace is like not something you have to earn. So yeah, I use too many boat metaphors here. They're like because the thing is like sense of self is like a sense of direction and like your movement throughout a space, and then there's also like self-image, which I talked about earlier, and it's always just because your brain, your eyes, your ears, they all localize things. You have your like cochlear vestibular system, which is like literally balance and coordination, and so truly like trying to locate yourself in space and time. And so if you are existing with a partner, right, like and you're on the same vessel, you guys want to be able to drop anchor in hard times without feeling like you're both emotionally adrift, or, if you're both two separate ships, you can tie yourself to each other, but you also have the freedom to like return to them or the harbor.
And I think that also this like concept of like it should always be 50-50 is really unrealistic. I mean, sometimes you're going to have way more to give and your partner is going to have less capacity. And then what you want, though, is for that to seesaw, right? So it's not always you giving more and them giving less, but like, oh, they're going through a really stressful period at work. I'm going to maybe need to step up more to maintain and the home and the relationship until they sort of have the time and the space. And then, I'm on my period and I'm not really feeling well, or I'm having a mental health crisis, or, and then they're stepping up and they're doing more. And so just like allow, rather than like the scorekeeping of like, is this exactly an even partnership? It's just the idea that over time it will even out.
Yes. Yeah. Keeping score. Gosh, that's so true. I read this book on gambling, and like you really shouldn't go 50-50 with someone, especially if the person who proposed it, because usually if you propose going 50-50, like that person ends up with like a lot more gain in the situation. They explained it through gambling terms, but it's been a while. So it's basically the person most likely to cheat at the table is the dealer. So whoever proposes, let's go 50-50. It's like it should be the person with, I guess, less power in society proposing like what sort of.
Well, it's also under the assumption that we're the same person every day. Yeah. That we have the same capacity, and we don't. And that situations change, we change, and we're adapting with each other.
Yes. True. Oh my gosh. This is so fun. Oh my gosh. Okay. I did want to ask. Okay. So, you also said in your Substack, your connection is this living, breathing, fragile thing that needs constant maintenance and upkeep. And I love that. Some days that is easy to do, joyful even. Other days it takes everything we have to give the bare minimum, like you were saying. And this reminds me, there's this book called The Botany of Desire, where it's like, so like shared interests, like fascination, the root word is fascia, which is like that connective tissue that bonds you and stabilizes you even in pursuit. So like your relationship is constantly moving and constantly evolving, but if you share fascination and interests and like desire to connect, right, you have like something that stabilizes you even though you're both like moving and evolving. And I thought that was, so I wanted to ask you, my follow-up question is, do you think unconditional love is even achievable? I don't know how I got to that. Sorry.
I think unconditional love is only appropriate between a parent and their child. I think that's the only situation where that is the appropriate structure, and it's not even both ways. I don't think it's appropriate for the child to have unconditional love for the parent. Yeah. But I think that the parent's job is to have unconditional love for their child. What that looks like can be different. I mean, if like your child is really struggling or is a criminal, or like it doesn't necessarily always mean that like you're apologizing for all of their behavior, or you don't see their flaws, or you don't, but you never take that love away. Yeah. I should also say I don't really care that much about people being criminals. Like,
Yeah.
Like,
We're pretty flexible here.
Yeah. It's more like my version of ethics of like, causing harm to other people rather than what is and is not legal in America.
Oh, yeah.
And then, but in a relationship, any relationship other than that, I don't think unconditional love makes any sense, right? Because it's just harmful to you. And there should be standards that you hold for who you allow to be in your life and what you allow that relationship to look like. I think oftentimes someone will still love the person, but they still need to leave.
Yes.
And this idea of like, take me as I am, you should love me no matter what. It's really manipulative and ultimately like an unfair ask.
It is. It is really unfair to ask someone to just blanket accept you how you are, and then also like to be static. Like as an individual, I know that like people evolve at like different rates and like change in different ways, but like accept me as I am. I will always be this. When human beings are evolved to evolve, it would be like, so you are saying accept that I'm plateauing.
Or you can say, look, I accept you as you are, but I don't want to be in a relationship with you, right?
Yeah.
It's not my job to change you. You're allowed to stay exactly who you are, but I'm also allowed to say that doesn't work for me.
Yeah. No, exactly. 100%. It's like, it's like a workout buddy. It's like, I accept that you are using only this weight set, but I'd like to push beyond, and that's so valid. But I'd like to, and I guess we're not workout buddies anymore. Please don't get jealous when I spot someone else, from across the gym. Yeah, I don't think unconditional love is really achievable. I think it's like the thing is when it comes to between parent and child, there is still the condition of this is like you're like it's like kind of this is your child, so like that's the condition. So it's not necessarily unconditional because there's the condition of they are your child.
But that you love is not something that is something that they can lose, right? Like I think that in the safest parent-child relationships, a child should feel that no matter what happens, no matter what I do, my parent will still love me. They might be disappointed, they might be upset, they might be hurt by me, but that the love is not conditional.
Okay.
And I think that creates like the safest place for someone to exist in the world. And it also kind of counterbalances a lot of the things that then go wrong with people if they don't feel that way. Like it's deeply damaging if you feel like your parents' love is conditional when you're growing up.
Yeah, it is. But I was gonna say I'm better for it. I don't know if that's true, but
you're not, right? It's like that's the thing is like it is a deeply damaging thing, but it doesn't mean that you can't find a way to heal.
Yeah, we talked about this like with the How to Trust episode, where it's like love, like a lot of people feel like fundamentally unlovable, but the thing is if you are totally capable of like giving and receiving love, if you think of yourself as like a modem or a router, right, and your parents being your first oppressors, which means it would be a systems issue, so it's kind of like the towers actually communicating the signals were highly inconsistent or they weren't working, and so you internalize that. You're like, oh, I am broken. It's not to say we're machines, but like you give and receive the signal just fine. If you get away from these people who are supposed to be supplying it, you'll realize, oh, there's connection, right? There's different speeds, or like there's different things I'm doing. And so it's just a matter of like being very aware of like the context and the people who we're supposed to, and then trying to find other people, because we experience love in so many different ways every day, like with friends or parents or sometimes even strangers. But then they're not strangers at a certain point. But
and then having compassion for yourself on why it might be harder for you.
Yeah.
Like why it might not come as naturally for you to trust and to feel safe in a relationship, or you didn't have a model of necessarily like what that looked like. And so to be gentle with yourself as you work to figure it out and to find it with people that are safe.
Yeah. It's thing is also like it's truly like modeling behaviors, and that we're a lot of people are very visual, like it's external, and so like you want to see how they would work in the real world, because you may feel like the feelings inside and you're like what you experience, but like to see it, like witness it from someone else, it's proof, right? You like also I love like logic, but like so like internal is like your truth, right? But to have someone else validate your truth, right? They see it or they perform something, that's like physical proof. And so like that's like context, right? Like that gives you like a fuller meaning and understanding of this actual like, you know, what love actually means. Because love, when you just only register it as like the word and the internal feeling, like it's actually lacking its anchor in reality. You like external, it's internally, it's real, right? But like to have it like performed and people react to it shows that like it does exist, you know. And since like I talk about how emotions like pretty much just follow the laws of physics. A lot of people, being a visual creature is like a huge evolutionary disadvantage, because the thing is you can't see like electrons like moving through the air. That doesn't mean that they don't exist. You know, if you can't see an atom, that doesn't mean that when you split it, like it won't explode. You know, a lot of people, they only deal with emotions until they can see the absolute worst of it. And that's when they fully see that they're real. Like people having an explosive moment or like reacting to something strongly. But yeah, you have to acknowledge that they're real. And oftentimes that means you got to see someone prove that, you know, you guys are literally linked together, and that they actually, if someone is totally indifferent every time you're upset, then that doesn't, it's not, you're like, you question your truth and there's now no proof, right? So like you're kind of just emotionally adrift. So to have your partner and you're like, yes, have your partner validate your feelings. Absolutely.
And also, like your view of the world, which like is a schema, right? The lens through which you view the world. If you view the world that love isn't real or that you're unlovable, then you're going to look for evidence that supports that, right? If your schema is I am an unlovable person, then it what the other person does doesn't even matter, right?
Yeah.
Because it will be seen through that lens.
Yes.
But so that's often, I think, sometimes where these people that have had, you know, damaging relationships with their primary caregivers or people growing up, it's like, what are we taking for truth that actually is harming us?
Yes.
And so what if we start to change that lens to I am worthy of love, and then suddenly we're interpreting the same actions and behaviors in a different way?
Yeah, I also think like since your parents are probably not like actually displaying the actual behaviors of love, you've mislabeled almost like everything. You know, so it's like, how come I keep trying to make this pasta? Well, it's like the thing you labeled as like salt and pepper is like, you know, it's like rat poison. So that's why you like that, you're like, but it's labeled salt and pepper. Just because someone labeled it that doesn't mean that it's not rat poison, you know? And so if your parents didn't like show you all these things, like even if these behaviors were to show up, you're like, that's not what that is. Because the schema, like I'm, you know, being yelled at is love. Like that's, if someone's not passionately trying to control my every move, then do they even love me?
That's why I like the therapeutic relationship can in itself be healing.
Yes.
Right? It can be your first example of what it means to have a healthy, or let's say healthy, but you know, to have like an adaptive relationship with another person, and to see someone like genuinely care about you, and to be able to rupture and repair, and to like use the skills that you are doing with your therapist that you can then go out and replicate in your other relationships.
Exactly. My therapist listens to this. I love her. I told her because I like professional feedback, and so I had a therapy session with her, and she was like, oh, just by the way, you said something. And I was like, oh my God, you actually listen to my podcast. And she's like, because you said you like professional feedback. And so it was just like, my relationship with her is so, I mean, I respect her deeply, and I also love her expertise. But yeah, it has modeled so many healthy things for me. I think a huge thing is when I've never thought of myself as like smart or I guess worthy of stuff, and then so people keep proving that I am smart or worthy, and I'm more like, I think everything's a prank. Do you know what I mean? Where I'm like, is someone messing with me?
That's the leap of faith, right? You get to decide, like, do I want to continue to hold on to this old narrative about myself, or am I willing to like take a leap of faith that maybe I was wrong and that maybe I am smart?
Oh, the thing is I knew it was like accepting it as truth, but the thing is faith. Yeah. Well, I guess maybe I'm dividing it up like beliefs where like internal. Okay. Leap of faith meaning spirituality. However, cause and effect is external. Okay. So yeah, I would just need to back translate it. Sorry, I'm doing like the math. But yeah, just take a leap of faith. I think the thing is also being raised super Christian, that anything associated with faith, I like immediately, but that's religion. Yeah.
This I mean more just like, taking the leap. Like you can remove the faith part, right? Just like taking the leap to believe, to choose to believe that maybe the narrative that you had was wrong. And what does it look like to adapt this new narrative?
Mm-hmm. Gosh, smart. That would be okay. This is so helpful. And also, like, I invited you on here, but you're like, okay, so yeah, you're you are smart, and and I'll be like, thank you so much. This has been transformative. And you're like, I worked all the day. This was supposed to be my day off.
No, this has been lovely.
Oh gosh. So what do you love about marriage? Like, when you coach other people on their relationships, or when you talk about marriage, like, what's your favorite point to touch on?
I love having a buddy, right?
Mm-hmm.
To go through life not on your own. I think that, and again, it doesn't need to be romantic relationships, but I just think like American society really over idolizes independence, and I'm actually not a huge fan of independence. I'm a fan of interdependence, where you rely on other people while still being able to operate on your own.
Yeah.
And so just the idea of having a person that like you get to like navigate like the really tough realities of life in 2025 with, and share chores, share, your emotions, have a sounding board, have someone that has your back. And I think just like, to me, the type of marriage that works best for me is to have a best friend, right?
Yes.
And so I really value that my husband is absolutely my best friend.
Oh, I love that. Also, I don't like independence. Well, the thing is I like generally, so like I also like there's individualistic emotions and like an individualistic culture, which it makes sense in terms of physics, but what you're describing is shared emotions, which is collectivist emotions, which is really cool.
Yeah, I mean, look, you don't want to like be codependent where their emotions, like you automatically take on their emotions. Yeah, but the idea of, I think that there is a sweet spot between like collectivist societies and individualistic societies.
Yes.
And that to me is interdependence.
Oh yeah, it's like it's a hybrid. It is so cool. You're an individual. You center yourself, and that doesn't mean that you need someone else to survive, or you only see like, all these social conditions, but it's like community is life, right? Yeah. You are simultaneously an individual and part of a community, and the community in this sense is your relationship. And it's great to have, your best friend, I mean, for life, or, for this right now.
Right.
Yeah. So you are a relationship coach. What has been how long have you been doing that?
So I launched my my business in November, and so it's newer. I went back to school for psychology, and I originally thought that I would get licensed as a therapist, but I ultimately decided that the therapeutic model didn't really work with like what I'm interested in, and also the amount of content there is about me on the internet. Therapy, it tends to be more of like a blank slate approach, and you if you wanted to, you could just learn absolutely everything about me and watch hours and hours of me talking online. And that felt like that would be unsafe for people that were looking for like a more traditional therapist or working with certain populations. And what I really love about coaching is I actually think that my clients most of my clients knowing about my life gives them more buy-in. Yeah. Right? Because it's like, oh, you've been through this. Or like, I know you dealt with that. And it actually like does it's additive that like they know what I've gone through. And I had worried that it would like weaken the relationship, but it actually, I think, it creates more buy-in and more credibility when I'm working with people. And then, the other part of that that didn't feel right for me with being a therapist versus a coach is like I really prefer a more directive approach of like I don't think coaching is for everybody, but I also think that sometimes coaching can be more effective for certain people than therapy, because like I'm being more directive with you. That doesn't mean you need to listen to everything I say, and believe me, they don't. But like
they really don't know.
To be able to like really be like solutions focused, to offer stuff. I'm a relationship coach, but I'm also dealing with people holistically. We're working on like movement, exercise, if they're eating enough, like what's their sleep quality, just sort of like giving them homework and different things. And then the other part of being a coach that's absolutely wonderful is that I can see people all over the world.
Yeah.
You know, when you're a therapist, you're limited to your state.
Yeah.
And I have clients like in multiple countries and throughout the country. And that's been really amazing and just like fun and interesting for me.
Oh yeah, that is so cool. I think I would prefer. My therapist is listening. I think I would really benefit from a coach. I think that's so cool. Yeah. You can relate to people more and like connect with them more. There is more buy-in and like shared connection. I love that. What's been your favorite God, I can't ask you personal questions. Have you ever
can.
Since November, have you seen one client really transform like how they approach life? And that's been like really rewarding to see.
I've helped a couple of clients get out of bad relationships, and that's been really, really wonderful and fulfilling. And then to see them thriving afterwards, or if not thriving, at least heading in the right direction, has been just like, to feel like I had any part of that is like so amazing.
Yeah, that's incredible. I would love to. I mean, I kind of understand. Some people are like therapy route for me, but I think I'd want to be a high school guidance counselor.
Oh, lovely.
But then also, like you were saying about too much information being out there. I've been doing this for 11 years, so I imagine a bunch of teenagers. Children are the future. Like that's my main thing, and also it's like hard, and I'm a bit resourceful. But like the idea of them looking me up. Also, I would just need to finish my college degree, not get like, which just seems like kind of iffy in the why should you be advising children, sort of thing.
I think you would need a college degree and then a master's.
Are you sure?
To be a counselor?
Or yeah, maybe I'm misunderstanding some things online.
Okay.
Or a 911 operator. I'm really good with people who are stressed out. Weirdly enough, not people who are calm. But like if you're incredibly stressed, it's...
Look, we thrive in a crisis.
That's true. That is so true.
Our anxious minds, crisis, we're prepared for that.
Yeah. You also said, so you, like you said, you mentioned boats a lot. You also said on your Substack to build a better boat. If you wanted to build a better boat with someone to like flow with them as another human being so you guys can ride the waves, what would you say is the anchor for the boat specifically in a relationship?
I think it probably comes back to respect and trust, right? I mean, if you see this other person as truly being as fully developed and has as much value as you, and that you respect their opinions, even if like you don't necessarily agree with them, then you're working from a good place. But if there's any sense of like, like they're just being cuckoo, or like I don't trust their insight, I don't trust their knowledge. Like, that can corrode things.
Yeah, that's true. So, and then I had like, what would you think are the sales in a relationship?
Oh gosh. Look, I don't know if this metaphor is really tracking for me. Like I've already lost the thread of how to do it. But for me in my relationships, I think the sales is probably humor, like a shared sense of humor. I think can like really propel you through a lot of difficult moments. Yeah,
I'm sorry if I didn't line up this shot as much, but no, the humor is...
No, I think I tied it in with the sales.
No, yeah, because humor is like, I was talking, I read this book called Your Brain on Art, which talks about like the saliency network. It's where like you make things like new, novel, funny, creative, personal expression. It just like kind of transforms more, not boring, but like kind of everyday things and like keeps you going. Like, so the boat I guess would exist, but what's keeping the boat going is like the new things you discover about them, the environment, like the rich environments that you guys visit together. And
ultimately it's like, who do you want to have lunch with hundreds of times?
That's true.
Like, at least for people that are looking for that kind of stimulating relationship, it's like, who can you just like talk to for like that long, that many days, that many years, that many decades, because you find them interesting. Yeah.
And you've decided your husband, I want to eat lunch with you every single day.
Yeah, but a lot of times I read while we eat lunch.
Okay. Oh my gosh. Okay, yeah. Well, this is... Oh gosh. Oh my God. It's been going for so long. Okay, wow. Oh my God. I had so much fun. This has been so great. I'm sorry. You're probably checking the clock like, is this gonna finish? I'm so sorry.
No, don't worry about it.
I was just I wanted to make sure I asked you a whole bunch of questions. This has been incredible. Thank you so much for being on Schauer Thoughts and listening to me ramble and getting to the understanding the questions I'm trying to ask. I really appreciate it. And would you like to plug anything for the end of the podcast?
I would love to. So my husband John and I have a new podcast called Starter Marriage, which is on the same network as yours. And so I'd love for people to check that out. Also, you can check out my Substack, Emotional Support Lady. You can find all my books on AllisonRaskin.com. And you can also, work with me as a relationship coach, both for individuals or couples, anywhere you live.
Yeah. And all of this will be linked below. Books, Substack, podcast. Thank you so much for being on. I really appreciate it. And thank you guys for listening. This has been Schauer Thoughts, a podcast for left and right brainers. Make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube, rate us 5 stars on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, anywhere you get your podcasts. And I will talk to you guys next week. Thank you, Allison.
Thank you so much.
All right. Bye, guys.